really think that fans around the NBA community right now are definitely sleeping on this team going into the 2021 and 2022 season in the Western Conference right now. A lot of the attention is obviously going towards the Lakers, who I think most of us can agree are the clear favorites in the Western Conference, but also lots of attention going to a team like the Warriors, who obviously have Klay Thompson coming back now, a team like the Denver Nuggets,
The Bryn, the GOAT.
that could be an offensive firepower team, and even teams like the Clippers, despite not having Kawhi Leonard, and even the Jazz are getting lots of attention in the Western Conference right now, but I really think this community is sleeping on the Phoenix Suns. A lot of casual NBA fans around the community had the common misconception last year of just assuming that the Suns' run to the finals last season was a complete fluke, but I completely disagree with this, and I'm going to try to prove that today and prove to you guys why I actually think the Suns are still the second best team in this Western Conference when everyone is fully healthy, and how they still have
Minecraft is always a
shot
woo.
to make the finals and win it all this season. So let's get into the video. So first I'm going to talk about the Phoenix Suns offense and what it's looking like going into this season. And obviously with the NBA playoffs last year and the Suns making it to the finals, personally I watched a lot of their games, especially in the NBA playoffs. And a couple of things about their offense really stand out to me. Their two superstars offensively.
Oh, the channel?
Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Devin Booker, I
Someone's
think, at the end of the
capping.
season will be pretty easily regarded as a top 15 player across the entire NBA community. And I think Chris Paul, despite still being 36 years old, I still think he's going to have a very good season because his game does not really rely that much on athleticism. It's more about his offensive IQ, his ability to always be the smartest player out there on the floor,
No
and
problem.
his ability to shoot in the mid-range area, operate there. And I think overall he's going to have pretty much the same season that he did last season. We've been, as an NBA community, expecting Chris Paul to fall off for a long time now, and it really never happens, and I really don't expect it to happen again in this season. And like I said, I mentioned this with Chris Paul, but what I like about both of these two guys is how they're able to operate in the mid-range area so effectively, and this is so important in today's game right now, because a lot of defenses, and really the most successful defenses in the NBA right now, really allow teams to shoot the mid-range shot since it's really not that great of a shot. Three-point shots are the lowest percentage shot, but they are still worth 3 points. Around the rim is the easiest place to score, but that mid-range area is something that a lot of defenses, and like I said, good defenses, they live with this shot here. But Devin Booker and Chris Paul are two of the best in the game at operating in this area and scoring in this area. Chris Paul last season having a 51.6 mid-range percentage on almost 6 attempts per game, which is extremely impressive in the modern-day NBA. And Devin Booker also having a percentage of 48.6 from the mid-range area, according to NBA.com, and also about 5.5 attempts per game for the mid-range area as well. And they definitely continue this in the playoffs as well. Chris Paul having a 52% mid-range percentage in the playoffs overall, and ranking third in the NBA playoffs in attempts per game in the mid-range area at 6.5. And Devin Booker only shooting 43% from the mid-range area, which still is pretty good, and did this on extremely high volume, 7.2 attempts from the mid-range area, which is second only behind Kevin Durant. So you get my point, they're very good at operating in the mid-range area, knocking down those shots, using screens to their advantage in the right way, and you can tell that Chris Paul's game is really rubbing off on Booker, because now he's really improved as a mid-range scorer as well, and it's really benefiting this team overall. As we know, especially Chris Paul is one of the best playmakers in the NBA right now as well. He's a very good passer, drives towards the rim a lot, and is able to make the smartest pass out there on the floor. Obviously has an extremely high IQ, and Devin Booker is definitely becoming a better playmaker.
Why you join another account?
Now as well.
And you don't want to get banned, do you?
Last year in box creation, which is a stat I like to use, is how many open shots you create for your teammates per game. And like I said, he ranked in the top 20 in that last season, which is very impressive. Not to mention that they now have a member of their big three in DeAndre Ayton, who proved last year that he can be a very effective traditional big man, a very good screener, ranked in the top 5 in regular season and playoffs last year in screen assists per game and screen assist points per game. And Chris Paul and Devin Booker do a great job of using these screens. He can slip towards the basket and get some alley-oops, and is a very effective post player and offensive rebounder. So their big three is very good, and both Booker and Ayton are going to improve this year as well. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on in the video too, how really overall the Suns team is going to improve as an overall unit. And also this team has a very good supporting cast. A guy like Mikal Bridges, who I'm expecting him to have quite a few 20-point games next season. A guy like Cameron Payne, who really emerged last season as a very
You
strong
beefing
backup
with
point guard.
yourself.
And overall, they have a lot of great three-point shooters. Those two guys that I mentioned, a guy like Cameron Johnson, Jay Crowder, who certainly can shoot over 40% from three. They added Landry Shamet, another guy this season who could shoot 40+% from three. And overall, last season, the Suns actually ranked 9th in the regular season in three-point percentage, shooting 37.7% from
I
three
don't
as a
know.
team, which is certainly above average in the league right now. And in the NBA playoffs, also ranking 8th there with pretty much the same percentage, 37.6% from three. So they have some great floor spacing for their main stars. Those guys on the perimeter can certainly knock down the three at a high level, high efficiency, and high volume. And overall, pretty much every aspect of their offense is looking very good going into next season. And I expect it to improve a lot as well. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on in the video. But overall, when we look at some stats from last season, this Phoenix Suns team in the regular season ranked 7th in the whole league in offensive rating, number 1 in the entire league in assist-to-turnover ratio, and 3rd in the entire league in true shooting, which is a stat that pretty much measures your overall efficiency. And then the playoffs had the 10th best offensive rating in the playoffs, the 3rd best assist-to-turnover ratio, and the 6th best true shooting. They dropped a little bit in rankings here, but still obviously very good, and they obviously had an extremely successful playoff run. And overall, like I said, this team's offense is looking polished going into next season, and I expect even better things from them next season. Now let's also talk about this team's defense, because I think their defense separates them from a lot of other teams in the Western Conference. It certainly did last year, and I definitely think it will again this year. And overall, as a defensive team, I think they're built very well. They have a lot of depth really on both ends of the floor, but especially defensively. And a guy that stands out for me defensively for this team is a guy like Mikal Bridges, who personally I think is a top 20 defender in the NBA. He definitely uses his length to his advantage, and he's the guy on this team that stands out as that guy that's going to kind of guard the other team's best player pretty much every night. He's versatile enough to defend 1 through 4, and pretty much, like I said, every night I think he's going to be effectively guarding the other team's best player. We saw him do this pretty much a lot throughout the NBA playoffs, whether as the other team's first or second best player in the NBA Finals, effectively guarding Chris Middleton, in the Western Conference Finals at times guarding Kawhi Leonard and also Paul George. And overall throughout the playoffs did a fantastic job defensively, and even in the first round at times had to guard LeBron James one-on-one, which was slightly a mismatch because Mikal Bridges isn't exactly the strongest guy, and the Suns definitely had kind of a team effort to stop LeBron, but he actually did a decent job one-on-one against him as well. So like I said, I think he's a top 20 defender, is going to be the team's best defender and the best on-ball defender for this team. A guy like DeAndre Ayton is, I think, going to get a lot better defensively as well, and we saw last year how, especially in the playoffs, he was an amazing defender as well, really improving his pick-and-roll defense, doing a very good job there. Overall, his rim protection is now basically one of the best in the league, in my opinion, and I think he's definitely classified as either a top 40 or maybe even top 35 or top 30, maybe even defender in the NBA right now. They have a guy in Chris Paul who is probably going to get a little bit worse defensively, just like he did last season, but is still a pretty good overall perimeter defender. And overall, they don't really have any defensive liabilities on this team. Another guy like Jay Crowder stands out as another guy who's actually a really good defender as well. Versatile, good on-ball and off-ball defender. And overall, like I'm mentioning right now, my point is their personnel is very good defensively. And also they're very, very good as a team defensively and have a very, very smart defensive coach in Monty Williams. We saw last year how constantly in the playoffs, the Suns were moving their game plan back and forth depending on teams, and whenever a team is going to stop shooting threes or stop making threes, the Suns are absolutely going to shrink that floor. We really saw that in the first round against the Los Angeles Lakers, how they shrunk the floor a lot, brought their wing defenders more in towards the paint, and left three-point shooters open, and they definitely play to percentages and personnel defensively and have a very smart defensive team and a very smart defensive coach. Last year in the regular season, the Suns had the 6th best defensive rating in the entire league, and in the NBA playoffs, their defense actually got even better, ranking 3rd in the playoffs in defensive rating, ranking also 3rd in opponents' field goals made per game, and also in the playoffs ranking 2nd in opponents' field goal percentage.
Bro.
Actually got even better, ranking 3rd in the playoffs in defending opponents to a whopping 44% from the field, ranking also field, which as an overall team is very impressive. So overall, I expect pretty much the same thing defensively from the Suns team this season, if not a little bit better. And like I said, I'm going to talk about improvements a little bit right now and how I really think on both ends of the floor, since pretty much all of the core Suns players are going to be returning this season and trying to run it back and make the finals again. This team is definitely now has more chemistry together. They are ran offensively by Chris Paul, who, like I said, has the highest basketball IQ probably in the entire NBA. And I think they're going to get more used to each other offensively, have better chemistry there. Obviously, chemistry and communication is very important on the defensive end of the floor. And I think after the long season that they had together last season, I think they're going to have even better communication and chemistry on that end of the floor, which is going to play a huge role for this team. Monty Williams has now grown and learned about his players a little bit more, to the point where he absolutely knows their strengths and weaknesses on both ends of the floor and will apply this a lot more to games. And overall, as a team, I think they're going to improve a lot, and their personnel is going to improve a lot as well individually. We look at guys like Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, Cameron Payne, and even more guys on this team who are very young and still have room for improvement. I mean, I would be absolutely shocked if pretty much any of those 4 guys that I named pretty much regress this season. I think on both ends of the floor, all 4 of those guys I mentioned are going to get a lot better. Plus, you got a guy like Jalen Smith, who's a young player taken in the lottery of last year's draft and will probably get some more minutes this season and more development. And overall, like I said, I expect a lot of individual and team improvements from this team this season. And that, combined with pretty much everything I talked about in today's video, makes the Suns a very scary team again going into this season. So there you have it. That's all I've got for you guys today. To sum up today's video, I think the NBA community is sleeping way too much on the Suns going into this season. I think they're probably going to be the second best team fully healthy in the West behind the Lakers. They're pretty much, in my opinion, going to be
Agree.
a top 10 to top 8 offensive team and absolutely a top 5 defensive team, and are going to improve a lot as a team. And the NBA fans and NBA casuals around this community need to accept the fact that the Phoenix Suns are championship contenders once again this season. Thank you all for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to comment down below your thoughts on today's video, and I'll see you guys next video.